Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again. Wherever you are, it could be morning, could be afternoon, could be evening. We are a global event here. We're broadcasting from Canada, but we have speakers from all over the world. We are Voice of Men 360, and that's what we represent, is the voice of men all over the world. So we've brought together some great speakers today for you to enjoy. We're going to start with some announcements first. Then we'll move into our national anthem, and then we'll start our speakers for today. So the announcements. Today's agenda, we have some exciting topics for you. You know what? One of them is, life's not over. It doesn't matter your age. Age is just a number. We're going to talk about unequal balance in men and the lives they lead. We're going to talk about spirituality with men, and then understanding and shaping men's behaviors and attitudes. And then, of course, discrimination of men. Does it exist? And what are the possibilities of eliminating that? So that's our lineup for today. But don't forget, we have a full lineup for a week-long celebration of International Men's Day. I want to thank our supporters who have made this possible. We have RCP, Right Choice Professionals. We want to thank them. We also want to thank Wood Gold LLP, barristers and solicitors. We also have Macomet and Agostino Mortgage. And then finally, DF Credit Solution for settlements, consumer proposal, and bankruptcy. Those are our sponsors, and they've been generous enough to help put this event together. So we have an art competition, and I will discuss that a little more throughout the show. But we're excited to promote an art competition here in Voice of Men, and you can have your voice heard through your art. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. We are a live talk show ongoing, and we're always seeking guests. You can share your authority here in Voice of Men. We'll give you the contact for that in just a moment. We're also, again, a nonprofit, not-for-profit organization, so we're always seeking different professionals and industry corporations and coaches and speakers to work with. So if you have an interest in working with us and you like what we have to say, please reach out to us. And our contact information for that is, our email is info@voiceofmen360.org. Our website, of course, voiceofmen360.org. And then, of course, you can visit us on Facebook at the same, facebook.com/voiceofmen360. Our videos and all the recordings, you can find them on our YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe for our videos. And so, again, we're excited that you could join us today, and we've got a great lineup. We're going to move into our anthem just for a moment before we begin with our speakers. So please, yep.
No, we don't play. We already played yesterday, so
we're only going to do it for the entrance. Very well. So we'll move into our lineup for today.
We have the first speaker. We can start with them. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So today we have the General Secretary for the Association of Protection for Men. He's been kind enough to join us from India. Madhu, tell us, why do we need protection for men? Let's talk about that.
Let's go.
Madhu, whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Good night, good evening, and good afternoon for it. Yeah, that's what. Actually, see, in a society like India, there are hundreds of and several thousands of false cases were foisted against men in India, where the most this thing is faced by the false assault cases, physical false assault cases in India, where the complaint was given by the wife herself against the husband and their family members for protecting, against the false sexual abuse cases and against the false physical assault cases. Here in India, we need the association.
Mother, your voice is cutting off.
We are experiencing a little bit of connection issues.
Yeah. Madhu?
So we may have lost our first speaker.
Okay, hold on.
I think we're trying to
Madhu,
reconnect, so
can
please
you
bear
hear?
with us a moment.
Madhu, can you hear?
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm back. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm back.
No worries. Please continue where you were. Thank you.
That's what. In India alone, nearly around 63% of assault cases were around most of the sexual abuse cases. 50% of the sexual abuse cases are proved to be false one. To protect those innocent who are victims of the false abuse, false sexual, false physical assault cases, we the people here in India had started this association, and we are protecting our guys and such sort of false physical assault cases. For that, we need this association to protect the men. And apart from that, most of the Indian men here who are who are affected the because of their
Madhu, your voice is connecting. I mean,
can you hear me, sir?
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what. Most of the men in India are addicted to alcohol. I mean, the affected men who are addicted to alcohol and other narcotic substances. To protect them and to bring them, bring them from their addiction. We the people and we here in India, we have been helping them. This association, our association is helping from.
Actually, what we can do is, Madhu, can you try to fix it and then come back? We can move to the next speaker and then we can move you to the next one.
Yeah, that sounds like it might be a good idea for now.
Go with
See if we can.
Jonathan is here, so you can actually.
Yep. Yeah. So we will try to get back to Madhu later on if we can get a better connection. But we are going to move on with our agenda for today, and we're going to talk to a self-discovery coach who's really talking about disconnection and unequal balance between men and women. So please welcome Jonathan Tarrant. Jonathan, thank you.
Thank you. Just had to remember that I was muted there for a moment.
Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here, and good day to everybody that's participating and everybody that's watching. Yeah, first of all, I mean, I'd like to thank Sivam for inviting me here to speak and for creating this incredible organization. You know, I appreciate everyone who's made the time to join in today, especially on a Sunday, either by doing a talk themselves and providing that value, or by just listening in and receiving all of the tremendous value and insight that's being offered here today, or this is the whole week, isn't it? So thank you for that. I wanted to clarify, if I may, something that you said in the introduction there. I'm not discussing balance or issues between men and women. What I'm speaking about is really just balance between mental health and physical health in a person. You know, this is a forum about men, so like my perspective is to do with men. Certainly, I think it applies equally to women. But I just wanted to be clear about that. I'm not here to discuss differences or balances between men and women exactly. So what I would like to talk about is that balance and why it's important to approach it in the right way. You know, we hear a lot about the importance of a work-life balance and balancing your mental health and your physical health. there's lots of this talk of achieving balance, and I feel like it may be generalized a little too much. For me, there's one aspect that is key above all others, and that is your mental health. Now, like nowadays, currently, I do strike a pretty good balance between my mental and my emotional and my physical health. I take care of my body. I take care of the way that I eat, the way that I think, and I allow my emotions to be experienced and expressed as they come up. You know, I don't fight them anymore. I'm not afraid of my emotions anymore. And that's a big deal for me because they used to be very overwhelming and I didn't know how to manage them. So this was not an easy place for me to get to. And this is my point about balance and approaching it in a prioritized way. I can say that before, maybe as little as 5 years ago, I still took good care of my body. I still ate very well. I was frankly in the best shape of my life, but my mind was falling apart. I'd been neglecting my mental health and suppressing my emotions for a long time. I'd lost sight of it all. I'd lost sight of the way that I was thinking. And when we get there, if we get there, that's where the trouble really begins. No longer seeing things clearly, you can easily get yourself in a state of denial. You know, denial about the choices that you're making, denial about maybe the things that are coming out of your mouth, denial about the actions that you're undertaking and the way that you see other people's response or reaction to you. From a place like that, you may not have the presence of mind to ask for the help that you need, particularly, let's face it, in men, because we typically don't like asking for help, even on a good day. And that's where I was. I couldn't see what I was doing. I had completely lost my grip on reality. And subsequently, my life fell apart. So, in my opinion, balance must be achieved in a certain effective order. You can be as fit as you want and you can do everything right, but if your mental state isn't lined up, then you kind of have nothing. Physical health can even become a pursuit that distracts you from dealing with your mental and your emotional health. You know, you can become obsessed with your physical fitness, with your physical appearance, with your diet, with your eating habits. You can get right into the minutia of all of that, and it becomes an obsession. It becomes who you are. It becomes how you define yourself, and that is not balanced. In my experience, your mental state is always seeking your attention. It's giving you all sorts of clues all the time, and it's up to you to listen and to see the clues for what they are. When we're calm and we give ourselves some room to breathe, we can begin to look for the clues and the patterns in our lives and our behaviors. Then, with some good solid support, we can focus on balancing our minds. We can focus on addressing our emotional needs and scars and climbing out from the darkness if that's where we found ourselves. Personally, I know when I really needed help, I didn't find it very easily at all. And certainly my state of mind was getting in the way too. It was making it, I was rejecting the idea of help and in denial about where I was. But only after my complete mental collapse did I really commit to getting proper help at any cost. In hindsight, you know, it would have been much preferable to have had access to someone like who I am today, who could have gotten down there in the darkness with me without judging, and who could have helped me to see with some clarity again. I believe to truly achieve holistic balance for yourself, you must start with your mind and your feelings. That's your foundation. That is what will carry you and support you. With that foundation, you can achieve far greater levels of physical health, relationship health, and spiritual health. With a strong foundation like that, you will be in a position to create the most beautiful balance within all aspects of your life and within yourself. And you're worth it. Your existing relationships, hopefully, probably, are worth it. And certainly your future relationships and your future self are definitely worth the effort. And if I can help you along the way, it would be my honor. I am, as mentioned, a self-discovery coach for men. Outside of my coaching, I also have a number of powerful resources like my Facebook group, my online course, and my podcast. And I recently released a book. Any way I can be of service to you is a pleasure for me. So again, let's start with your mental health and let that be the foundation for balancing everything else. Thank you very much.
Jonathan, thank you very, very much. Sorry for introducing you incorrectly and getting that wrong. I really like the talk you brought to us, which really is about the balance within. And that's what our theme is for this year with International Men's Day. It's about healthy minds and bodies. And I think you're right. It starts with the mind. We have to build a healthy, strong mind. I know that's where I came from first. I think you're in the same boat. You came from the same growth path. And I applaud you for coming out to talk to us today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure.
We can move to Dr. Thiru. Mother is not available.
Okay, so next we move on with a discussion on continuing life. You know, life really never ends. Age is just a number. When do you stop? So just because you've reached senior doesn't mean it's over. Dr. Thiru from Sri Lanka is going to come and talk to us more about that. So how's life after 60? Dr. Thiru?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who are listening or who are watching. I'm working with the seniors mostly, so I have a lot of experience with the Canadian senior Tamil people. So I would like to talk about a little bit about how their life is going here. So when they reach most of the men or women even, when they reach the 55, this is the time they think they are getting old. There's a label for them for the seniors. This is the time they have to take the benefit from the senior benefit. That means they can use the discounts from the restaurants or entertainment or grocery or even trailer. These are the things they can use the benefit from the discounts. So the mind is already Jonathan talked about the healthy mind is a healthy body. So the mind setup is the main important things here. When in a Tamil senior in Canada, most of the seniors, when they reach the 55, they're thinking they are old and they cannot do anything. That is really sad here. As in Canada, we did one of the research having done, the Health Age International study saw them. They did around 9,600. They took the 9,600 participated. 790 million seniors was participated. From that study itself saying the fourth place in the world, the seniors to live in Canada. So the problem is here in the Tamil seniors here, they don't know the resources. So we have to make them realize the resources. What are the resources we have in Canada so they can use them? When they reach the 64 years old, that's obviously in Canada is a senior citizen or senior citizen. So that time, most people, what they're thinking they get old. That's what their mind setup is. Then they are lacking from doing anything. They just sitting home and watching TV or the lazy chair. That's really sad. But I'm talking about the Tamil seniors, mostly Tamil Canadian seniors. So this is the time you get retirement from the work. So you have a freedom to celebrate your life. Whatever you want to be, you could do it. I could give you a couple of examples from our society and the general world. You can see the neighboring country, Joe Biden. He's a 78 years old gentleman. He could win the election and he could be a president in US. Why not you? And second one, I could give you more example. Like in our society, one of the guy who was 88 years old, he's training Yoga. He wanted to be a Yoga teacher in 88 years old. He's enrolled at Annamalai University. He's a participant. He's a part of the member of our Vasantham Wellness Center. And I could give you many people the example. It's not about the example. You have to change the mind the way healthy mind is a healthy body. So you have to do the exercise. That's the main problem. When you start at 54 or 50, even before, you have to start the exercise. If you are not missing the exercise, at least 55, you have to start the exercise. Active social living is the main key for the man to successful in their life. Active social living means they have to connect with their friends, all good friends, and their neighbors, and their society. Even if they when they get 64, they can do so many things. They can learn something. In Canada, after 60 years old, they don't have to pay the tuition fees. How many Canadian citizens, Tamil seniors know that? Few of them, they know that. In my medical school, one other guy, whoever, he's studied he was worked as a principal in the high school. When he retired from the high school, he come to study the medicine. So medicine is a big professional, but he came to study after 60 years old. So there's a room for do something. And so one of the other few issues I like to talk about it. The life insurance. This is something I have to make them aware about our seniors. The life insurance, the life insurance is necessary for the seniors who were living with the welfare or who were living with the ODSP or OASs. Is not necessary. The money that the government giving you to mail you alive, you have to enjoy the money. You don't have to save something afterward you passed away. The government going to take care of everything, all the funeral costs and everything. The government will going to take care of it. So you don't need the life insurance. So, to example, if you are getting from ODSP or welfare or OAC, you're getting the money from the government. The government money is enough to live here, not to save something. So when you passed away, the government going to take care of everything. So you don't have to worry about that. And the other thing is the senior man or woman, even when they get the aging, we don't give the respect as the sometimes the society not giving the respect as the equal respect. That's the really sad things, especially when the senior have a dementia. I mean the memory problems or even depression. This is a part of the society. Sometimes they don't give the equal rights and equal respect. That is really sad. The other human being, they have all the rights to live here. So we have to respect as a human being. We have to respect everyone. When the senior, sometimes when the memory have find falling down, they think this is due to the age and they stop to see the doctor. But I'm encourage you guys to, if you are senior, if you are feeling like mental any like a dementia symptom, like a memory issues, you should talk to your doctor, because some of the problem you can hear. So if you're depression can cause a dementia issue. So you could go and pseudo dementia, it's called pseudo dementia. So you could go and get the treatment for the depression, you can get out from there. Or even some mineral imbalance can cause this kind of problem. So you should see the doctor to do the investigation to get out from this small problem. Other things, when this man turns 64, I'm talking about Tamil senior man. Sometimes they work on the employee factory or anywhere for more than like a 30 to 40 years. Then all of a sudden go to there and tell them, I'm going to retire. You don't have to tell them you are retiring, because after retiring, sometimes what they're doing, they're going back to work as a part-time employee. In Canada, you don't have to quit the job to get the CPP, Canadian Pension Plan. You could apply. When you reach 64, you could apply the CPP. You could receive the CPP benefit. Same time, you could continue working. When the employer, when they asked you to leave, they're going to give you some kind of money and things like that, the benefit to let you go. So that you're losing that, and when you go and ask them, you're losing that benefits a lot. So many things I like to talk about these things, but one other time, I will talk more about the men issues here in Tamil society. But I like to speak a little bit in Tamil too. ஸோ எல்லோருக்கும் இனிய காலை வணக்கம், மாலை வணக்கம், மதிய வணக்கம். இன்றைய பொழுதில் உங்கள் எல்லோரையும் சந்திப்பதில் நான் மற்ற மகிழ்ச்சி அடைகின்றேன். இன்றைக்கு நாங்கள் பேச எடுத்துக்கொண்ட விடயம் இந்த அதாவது சீனியர் மெயினை பற்றி தான் மெயினா. பட் ஆனால் நான் சீனியர் மெயினையும் சேர்த்து பொதுவாக சீனியர் என்ற வகையில நான் கலைக்கிறேன். இது 2 பேருக்குமே பிரயோஜனமாக இருக்கும். ஒரு மனிதன் பாத்தீங்கன்னா 8 வாழ்க்கை பிரிக்கப்பட்டிருக்கின்றது. அந்த வாழ்க்கைன்னு சொல்லிக்கல ஆரம்பத்துல பாத்தீங்கன்னு சொன்னா எல்லாருமே ஓடி 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 படிக்கிறோம். புத்தகத்தை ஹெவியா யூஸ் பண்ணி படிச்சு ஒரு ஸ்ட்ரெஸ்ஸோடய யூனிவர்சிட்டிக்கு என்டர் பண்ணணும். யூனிவர்சிட்டிக்கு என்டர் பண்ணா யூனிவர்சிட்டி கிராஜுவேட் பண்ணணும். அந்த ஸ்ட்ரெஸ்ஸோடய வாழ்ந்து 24 வயது வரைக்கும் திருமணம் ஆகுன்றது. திருமணம் ஆனோன்னு அதுக்கு விட மேல ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் கூடிக்கொண்டே போகிறது. அந்த ஸ்ட்ரெஸ் காரணமாக ஒரு ஆண்மகன் தனக்கு என்னென்ன ஆசைகள் இருக்குதோ அந்த ஆசைகளை பூர்த்தி செய்ய முடியாமல் அப்படியே அடங்கி கிடக்கின்றான். அப்படி கிடக்குற டைம்ல அவனுக்கு 55 ஆகுன்றது, 60 ஆகுன்றது. அது கவர்மெண்ட் தான் இந்த ஏஜ் நிர்ணயிக்கிறது. அதாவது 55 சீனியர் சொல்லியும் 64 ஒபிஷியல் சீனியர்ஸ் சொல்லி கவர்மெண்ட் டிசைட் பண்ணி இருக்கிறது. இந்த டிசிஷன் உங்களுடைய மைண்ட் செட் நீங்க இந்த பெனிஃபிட் எடுக்கிறதுக்காண்டி தான் இந்த பாவிக்கணும் தவிர உங்க மைண்ட நான் வயதாயிட்டு என்று சொல்லி சிந்தனை உங்களுக்கு வரக்கூடாது. எப்பவுமே நீங்க உடற்பயிற்சி செய்து கொண்டிருப்பீர்கள், ஆனால் உங்களோட ஏஜிங் சரியா குறைக்கக்கூடிய இருக்கும். உடற்பயிற்சி தான் மெயின் கீ. அதாவது சோசியல் ஆக்டிவா இருக்கணும். நீங்க இதன் மூலம் நீங்க உங்களை ஹெல்த்தியா, அதாவது ஹெல்த்தி மைண்ட் ஹெல்த்தி பாடின்னு சொல்றேன், இந்த ரெண்டையும் பேலன்ஸ் பட்டு ஹார்மோனிக்கா இருக்குமா இருந்தா உங்களுக்கு பிரச்சனைகள் வர்றதுக்கு குறைவாக இருக்கும். இப்ப 55 வயது ஆகின்றோன்னு நீங்கள் கன பெனிஃபிட் எடுக்கலாம். அதாவது ஒரு ரெஸ்டாரண்ட்டுக்கு போய் சாப்பிட்டா அதுக்குரிய டிஸ்கவுண்ட்ஸ் உங்களுக்கு கிடைக்கின்றது. ஒரு என்டர்டைன்மெண்ட் பர்பஸ் ஒரு மூவியா இருக்கலாம், அல்ல எனி மூவியா இருக்கலாம், எதுவா இருந்தாலும் அதுக்கு கூட உங்களுக்கு டிஸ்கவுண்ட்ஸ் இருக்கு. இந்த குரோசரியா இருக்கலாம், ரிட்டைல் ஸ்டோரா இருக்கலாம், இனி இதுல எங்க போனாலும் உங்களுக்கு இந்த டிஸ்கவுண்ட்ஸ் இருக்கு. 55 வயதுக்கு மேற்பட்ட ஒரு டிஸ்கவுண்ட். இந்த டிஸ்கவுண்ட்ஸை நீங்கள் பாவிங்க. உங்களுடைய ஏஜ் செல்வதற்கு நீங்க பின்னுக்கு நிக்காதீங்க. எனக்கு 55 வயது ஆயிட்டுது என்று சொல்லி அந்த டிஸ்கவுண்ட்ஸ் எடுங்க. மற்றது இப்ப 55 வயது ஆயினாலும் 64 வயதுல உங்களுக்கு கனடால ஓல்ட் ஏஜ் செக்யூரிட்டி சொல்லப்படுகின்ற இந்த பென்ஷன் தரப்பட போறோம். அந்த பென்ஷன் எடுக்கிற நீங்கள் இங்க கனடா பொறுத்தவரை பாத்தீங்கன்னா உண்மையிலேயே வெல்பீயிங் கண்ட்ரி. அதாவது கனடால ஒரு உலகம் பூராவா ஒரு ரிசர்ச் செய்திருந்தாங்க. அந்த ரிசர்ச்ல 96 நாடுகளை உள்ளடக்கி 790 மில்லியன் பீப்புளை சீனியர்ஸ் எடுத்து செய்திருந்தாங்க. அப்ப அதுல கனடா 4வது இடமா வந்திருக்கிறது. சீனியர்ஸ் வாழக்கூடிய ஒரு மிக சிறந்த நாடாக வந்திருக்கிறது. ஆகையினால உங்களுக்கு தெரிய வேண்டிய என்னென்ன ரிசோர்ஸ் நீங்க பாவிக்கலாம் என்ற விஷயத்தை நீங்க தெரிஞ்சு கொள்வீர்களானால் உங்களால சிறப்பாக வாழ முடியும். இப்ப அடுத்த ஒரு விஷயம் இப்ப நீங்க இப்ப நான் முதல் சொன்னது போன்று இங்கிலீஷ்ல சொன்னது போன்று ஜோ பைடன் பாத்திருக்கீங்க. அமெரிக்கான பிரசிடண்ட் ஜனவரியில பதவியேற்க போகின்றார். அவர் 68 வயது. 68 வயதுல இந்த பெரிய வல்லரசின் பிரசிடண்ட் ஆக முடியும் என்று சொன்னால் எங்களுக்கு சாதாரண வாழ்க்கையை வாழ்றதுக்கு எங்களுக்கு கஷ்டமா இருக்குமா என்று என்னுடைய கேள்வி. இப்ப இன்னொரு பார்க்கலாம். எங்களுடைய வசந்தம் வெல்னஸ் சென்டர்லயே ஒரு ஆள் இருக்கிறார். அவருக்கு 88 வயது. அவர் அண்ணாமலை பல்கலைக்கழகத்துல போஸ்ட் கிராஜுவேட் டிப்ளமா இன் யோகா செய்து கொண்டிருக்கிறார். அப்ப 88 வயதுல அவர் யோசிக்கிறார், அட்லீஸ்ட் ஒரு 6 வருஷமாவது என்னால யோகா பிராக்டிஸ் பண்ண முடியும். மேபி ஹி வில் லிவ் 105. ஹூ நோஸ். அப்ப ஏஜ்ன்றது ஒரு நம்பரை தவிர அதை உங்களுடைய மைண்டுக்குள்ள நீங்கள் எடுக்கும் நினைக்கும் அது நம்பர், ஜஸ்ட் நம்பர். நீங்க எப்போ அந்த ஏஜ் எனக்கு வயதாயிட்டு நினைக்கிறீங்களோ அப்பதான் நீங்க ஓல்ட் ஆகுறீங்க. அப்ப அந்த விஷயத்துல கொஞ்சம் கவனமா இருக்கணும். அடுத்தது பாத்தீங்கன்னு சொன்னா இப்ப கனடால 64 வயதுல உங்களுக்கு நீங்க வெல்ஃபேருக்கு ஓல்ட் ஏஜ் செக்யூரிட்டிக்கு நீங்க அப்ளை பண்ணலாம். ஓல்ட் ஏஜ் செக்யூரிட்டி அப்ளை பண்ணிக்கல நீங்க வேலை செய்து கொண்டிருப்பீங்களா இருந்தா அந்த வேலையை குயிட் பண்ணித்தான் அப்ளை பண்ணணும்னு இல்லை. அதாவது இந்த வேலையை நீங்க கண்டினியூ பண்ணி கொண்டிருக்கீங்களே நீங்க அப்ளை பண்ணலாம். அப்ளை பண்ணி உங்களுக்கு 2ம் பெறலாம். மெயின் டைம்ல சேம் டைம்ல நீங்க இந்த ஓல்ட் ஏஜ் செக்யூரிட்டி பென்ஷனும் எடுத்துக்கொண்டு அதே நேரத்தை வேலையும் செய்து கொண்டிருக்கலாம். அப்புறம் கொஞ்ச காலத்துல அதாவது 6 மாதம் 8 மாதத்துல உங்களோட எம்ப்ளாயரே உங்களை கூப்பிட்டு அவர் ஓகே ஜஸ்ட் செட்டில் டவுன் என்று சொல்லி உங்களுக்கு ஒரு பேக்கேஜ் தந்து உங்களை வீட்டுக்கு அனுப்பி வைப்பாங்க. நீங்களாவே போய் நான் ரிட்டையர் ஆக போறேன்னு சொல்ல வைக்கல அந்த பேக்கேஜ் உங்களுக்கு கிடைக்காம போகுது. அப்ப அந்த பேக்கேஜ்ல கிடைச்சிருச்சுன்னா உங்களோட ரெஸ்ட் ஆஃப் த லைஃப் அதாவது பைனான்சியல் பிரச்சனை இல்லாம நீங்க ஓட்டக்கூடியதா இருக்கும் உங்களோட லைஃப். இந்த கனடா பொறுத்தவரை அதாவது அக்கார்டிங் டு சன் லைஃப் பைனான்சியல் ஒரு ரிசர்ச் செய்திருந்தாங்க. அந்த ரிசர்ச்ல பார்த்து அந்த பைனான்சியல் பிரச்சனை தான் இந்த எல்டர் அதாவது வயதானவர்களுக்கு வர ஒரு என்சைட்டி அதாவது பிரச்சனையாக இருக்கு, மெயின் பிரச்சனையாக இருக்குன்னு சொல்லி அவங்க கண்டுபிடிச்சிருந்தாங்க. அப்ப ஆனா இந்த கனடால இருக்கிற சீனியர்ஸுக்கு அந்த பிரச்சனையே இல்லை. ஆகையினால நீங்க ஃபீல் ஃப்ரீயா லைஃப் என்ஜாய் பண்ணலாம். அடுத்து இன்னொரு விஷயம், இந்த லைஃப் இன்சூரன்ஸ் பற்றி கட்டாயம் நான் இதை சொல்லியே வாடு. ஏன்னா நான் கன சீனியர்கிட்ட போய் பழகி நடத்த அவங்க வந்து ஒரு நாளைக்கு சாப்பிடுறதுக்கே சரியா கஷ்டப்படுறாங்க. ஆனால் அவங்க இன்சூரன்ஸ் அப்ப அந்த இன்சூரன்ஸால போடுறதால நீங்க இல்லாத காலத்துல அந்த இன்சூரன்ஸ் உங்களோட பிள்ளை எல்லாரும் பாதிக்க போறாங்க. இன்றைக்கு உங்களுக்கு உணவுக்காண்டி தான் கவர்மெண்ட் சாப்பாடு செஞ்சு கொண்டு இருக்கிறாங்க. அப்ப நீங்க அந்த இன்றைக்கு உடைய அந்த காசை இன்றைக்கு சாப்பிடுங்க. இன்றைக்கு சாப்பிட்டு உங்களுக்கு உடைய நல்ல உணவு எடுத்துங்க, ரெண்ட பே பண்ணுங்க, வடிவா சந்தோஷமா இருங்க. நீங்க இறந்த பின்பு உங்களுக்கு அந்த காசு வந்து உங்களுக்கு உதவாது. உங்களுக்கு நீங்க என்ன யோசிக்கலாம், அங்க செஞ்சா அப்புறம் உங்களுக்கு செத்த வீட்டுக்கு செலவாகும் யோசிக்கலாம். அந்த செத்த வீட்டுக்கு வந்து கவர்மெண்ட் டேக் கேர் பண்ணும். அதை நீங்க ஒரி பண்ணவே தேவையில்லை. நீங்க இன்சூரன்ஸ் நீங்க போடாம இருப்பீர்களா இருந்தா நீங்க தயவு செய்து லைஃப் இன்சூரன்ஸ் உங்களுக்கு தேவையில்லாத ஒன்று. அடுத்து வந்து இந்த டிமென்சா அடுத்த டிப்ரெஷன் இப்படியான சீனியர்ஸை வந்து சில சமயங்கள்ல அவருக்கு உரிய மரியாதை கொடுக்க எங்களோட சமுதாயம் வந்து தவறி விடுகின்றது. இது உண்மையிலேயே ஒரு கவலைக்குரியமான விஷயம். அவர்களும் வந்து எங்களை போன்று எல்லா உணர்வுகளும் உடைய ஒரு ஹியூமன் பீயிங். அப்ப அவர்களுக்கு நாங்கள் வந்து கட்டாயம் ஈக்குவல் ரைட்ஸ் கொடுக்கணும், அவர்களுடைய ரெஸ்பெக்ட் பண்ணணும். அவர்களுக்கு அவர்களை வந்து என்னென்ன மாதிரி நாங்கள் எங்களுக்கு இன்னொருவர் ஏதாவது செய்தால் கேட்பனதோ அதே மாதிரி அவர்களுக்கும் கேட்பணும். ஆகையினால் அவர்களை வந்து ஈக்குவலா நாங்க வழி நடத்துவோம். அடுத்த ஒரு உதாரணத்தை நான் சொல்ல விரும்புகிறேன். ஒரு அதாவது என்னுடைய கோவர்க்கர் வந்து ஷேர் பண்ண ஸ்டோரி இது. ஒரு அதாவது வந்து இப்ப இந்த எல்லாமே வெர்ச்சுவல் இதா மாறினபடியா ஒரு போட்டி 24 டேப்லெட் வந்து வந்தது. அதை டிஸ்ட்ரிபியூட் கொடுக்க சொல்லி விரும்பினோம், அதாவது வந்து யாருக்கு பெனிஃபிட்ஸ்க்கோ அதன்படி கொடுக்க சொல்லி கவர்மெண்ட் வந்திருந்தது. அப்போ ஒரு சீனியர் உமன் இஸ் வெரி லோடிங் வித் சன், அவ வந்து மகனோட வாழ்ந்து கொண்டிருக்கிறான். அப்ப அவ வந்து கன பிரச்சனையா இருக்கிறோம், அவ வெளியில சோசியலைஸ் பண்ணி அவ வெளியில கொண்டுறதுக்காண்டி அவ பரிந்துரைச்சு அவ கூப்பிட்டது. அப்ப மகன் தான் கூட்டிட்டு வார அந்த ஐயாவை. அப்ப அந்த ஐயா வந்து வந்த உடனே அதுல $24 கூப்பனும் அந்த டேப்லெட்டும் சேர்த்து கொடுக்கிறது. அப்ப அந்த மகன் சொல்றார், இந்த டேப்லெட் எனக்கு வேண்டாம், இதை மட்டும் தாங்க, $24 தாங்கன்னு சொல்லி அப்பாவுக்கு அவ்வளவு காணும்னு சொல்லி கூட்டிட்டு போறேன். காரணம் வந்து என்ன ரீசன் உடைய நிப்பாட்டி என்ன ரீசன் கேட்டோன்னு அந்த ரீசனுக்கு அவர் சொன்ன ரீசன் வந்து இந்த டேப்லெட் அவ கொடுக்குறதால தாய் வந்து எல்லாருமே காய்ச்சொன்றிருப்பா, வீட்டுல வந்து பீஸ் இருக்காது, வீட்டுல வந்து சத்தமாக இருக்குன்னு ஒரு இதை சொன்னார். உண்மையிலே கவலைக்குரிய விஷயமா இருந்தது. அப்புறம் அந்த ஐயாவோட மேற்கொண்டு கதை கேட்க சொன்னார். ஒரு தரம் வந்து மகன் வந்து திடீரென்று கலைச்சோட அவர் உடனேயுமே யூரினேட் பண்ணிட்டார் தன்னுடைய பேண்ட்ல. அந்த அளவுக்கு பயந்து வாழ்ந்துட்டு இருக்கிறார் மகனுக்காக. இப்ப இந்த எல்டர் அபியூஸ்ன்னு சொல்றது வந்து உண்மையிலே ஒரு சீரியஸான பிரச்சனை. இதை நான் ஒரு உதாரணத்துக்கு தான் சொல்லியிருக்கேன். இது வந்து ஒவ்வொரு நாளும் நாங்கள் பார்க்கிற ஒரு பிரச்சனை. அதாவது வந்து தந்தை தாயை உங்களால் பிள்ளைகள் வந்து பராமரிக்க கஷ்டமாக இருந்தால் அவர்களை வந்து உரிய வகையில அவர்களை செப்பரேட்டா வாழ விடலாம். அவர்களை வைத்து ஓரலி, அதாவது வந்து வேர்பல் அபியூஸ்ன்றது வந்து இன்னும் ஒரு கொடுமையான விஷயம். இப்ப கடியால அடிக்கிறது தான் அபியூஸ் மட்டும் இல்ல, வேர்பல் செய்யலாம், வேர்பல் அபியூஸ் பேசுறது, மனம் மறந்ததற்கான செயற்பாடுகள் செய்யறது, இதுகள் எல்லாமே ஒரு அபியூஸ். இதை பற்றி கணக்கு விஷயம் கதைக்க வேண்டியிருக்கிறது. இன்னொரு சந்தர்ப்பத்துல இதை பற்றி நான் நல்லா விவரமா கதைக்க விரும்புகின்றேன். எஸ், இந்த சந்தர்ப்பத்தை தந்த எல்லோருக்கும் மிக்க நன்றி. தேங்க்யூ. Have a wonderful day.
Dr. Thiru, thank you. I'm glad you were able to deliver that both in Tamil and in English, because I think, a lot of, especially men, a common theme that's come up today is men don't ask for help. They don't take that step and seek the care they need. There's a lot of issues preventing us. Even as seniors, we don't think the care is available, or we may not know these options are available. So thank you for presenting those today. Because again, too many people are maybe just uninformed, or they're ill prepared for the retirement age. Thank you for that. We're going to keep moving on. Actually, before I go into my next presentation, I want to talk about our art competition. And Voice of Men 360 and RCP Business Community is proud to present our special art competition in honor of International Men's Day, which is November 19th. So we want you to share your feelings or your thoughts behind International Men's Day through your art, whether that's a drawing or painting, some kind of theatrical or production, a play, music or song, short film, writing, poems, articles, animation, comics, or any other art you feel might be appropriate. Try to keep your submissions short. under 5 minutes for productions, and then under 2,500 words for writing articles. The deadline for this is Sunday, December 20th. So please visit our website for more information. Again, we thank our sponsors, RCP Right Choice Professionals, Wood Gold LLP Barristers and Solicitors, Macamet and Augustino Mortgage, and DF Credit Solutions. Thank you guys for your involvement in making this possible. There are terms and conditions, but I'll talk about those at the end of the show. Thank you for taking a moment there to talk about our competition. So we'll move on in our speakers today. Next, we're going to move on to talk about spiritual enlightenment. Our next guest believes that he could blend science, alternative medicine, my apologies, psychology and spirituality into a common sense service. Ramesh Ramkumar, thank you for joining us today.
Experience. So I'll dive right into it. Contemporary spiritual enlightenment is what I want to talk about today in this short space of time that we have. You would normally associate spiritual enlightenment with someone ancient living in isolation somewhere in the Himalayas or some deep forest. I mean, enlightenment means to know, to be aware, to become informed about something. Spiritual enlightenment would mean that the spirit must become aware or know something. So what is that? And contemporary current or modern.
Ramesh, we have some issues. Your voice is not clear. It's dropping or cutting off. It's not, So,
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Spiritual enlightenment means spirit must become aware of something or to know something. And contemporary means current or modern. So right now in this day and age, what can spiritual enlightenment mean to you and to me? So it hasn't always been like this, but nowadays at 64, when I experience myself or observe others, I perceive them as 4 distinct aspects of being human. First aspect of being human is that our true identity is soul or spiritual energy, which is the energy frequency of peace, joy, love, or contentment. So I know that I am energy now, and I lived all my life never thinking about myself that way. And the second is that I have a brain with which to think with, and the third, emotion, feel, and the fourth aspect of my being human is my physical body. So I am these 4 aspects of being human. So it makes it easy for me now when I work with other people to get them to identify themselves with these 4 aspects that they are. In other words, I am this spirit, if you can imagine a ball of energy over my head, and then I am associating with the neuron cells of my brain to produce thoughts. And as a result of the kind of information I associate with to produce those thoughts, whether it's positive or negative, I produce chemicals that flood my bloodstream to make me either feel good or angry or bad. And then I have a behavior as a subsequent result of me producing those chemicals. So I'm a biological, biochemical machine, and running this machine is a consciousness or a spirit. So it's as if there is a creator or a universal intelligence or God, by whatever name we'd like to call this entity by, that says, go my children, bits of what it is that I am, spirits or souls, and come and visit the earth plane. For that, you will be given the gift of physical bodies with which to experience the gross sensuality of being human. But since God helps those who help themselves, you'll be endowed with a device called a brain with which to think with, and you'll have free will to think whatever it is you want to, but you'll become responsible for those thoughts by having corresponding emotions. So here I am, just like every one of us sitting, listening to this talk today, or anybody in this world. I'm four distinct aspects of being human. I am soul, thinking, speaking, feeling, and behaving. And that is the sequence of the creation of my life's experiences. From top down, from nothing or no thing, which is what spirit is, to something which is the grossest part of myself, which is this body. So I am thinking, speaking, feeling, behaving. And I have been, so for spirit to become enlightened, it simply means that I have to learn how to use these three instruments in a biologically appropriate manner, which is what I have written about in my book called Being Human, Unearthing Wisdom to Live Disease, Misery, and Medicine Free. So, but if you think about it, from the time you and I have been born, we have been trained by society to give up the responsibility of all four aspects of our being human to some industry out there or some institution out there. The spirit or the soul is handled by some stereotyped building or stereo-shaped building on a Tuesday, Friday, or a Sunday, where I have to attend to my spirit through some other person asking me to worship in a particular way. And then my brain or my mind, my emotion, is handled by another department, a psychiatric or a psychotherapist. And my physical body is also, the care of it is given up to some other institution or some medical practitioner. And for all four aspects of self, I don't know how to coherently use them because I've subconsciously from birth given up the responsibility for how they function to someone else. And all I've become responsible for is going to school and being shaped, chiseled, and geared to fit like a little cog in the big wheel of commerce, where I should put my shoulder to a big wheel and push and push and push from morning till evening. And as I age, the system will spit me up, chew me up, and spit me out as a mirthless heap called retirement age, where I'll be left, mostly as the world is today, in some form of disease and despondent and depressed and feeling worthless. So I have helped myself over the years of having gone through so much of personal trauma and pain and suffering to understand myself as these four aspects of being human. I am soul, having a human experience, using the three instruments that I have been endowed by a creator to visit the earth plane, which is my brain, emotion, and physical body. And if I can learn how to use these three instruments coherently and biologically appropriately, then I'll be able to understand what spiritual enlightenment truly means. I will know how to use these instruments and I'll be enlightened. And if I can use them in the way I should be doing peacefully, in harmony, and in good health, then that's the wisdom I should be sharing with the rest of the world. When I mismanage these three instruments, then I have mental, emotional, and physical disease. And then I have to go around with a begging bowl, never big enough for what it is I need to be okay in this world again. So It's a simple thing, really. The biggest disease on the planet today is confusion. And if we just take time to step back and start experiencing ourselves as these four instruments: spirit, brain, emotion, and physical body, and the sequence of the creation of our life experiences from top down, then I will just leave you with a little exercise. I will ask you to imagine yourself as a soul using your brain. I am thinking, and then use your two hands, the right hand and the left hand. The right hand, imagine the creator or God, whatever name you'd like to attach to the entity, on the right hand side. On the left hand side is the opposite of that. Let's just call that the devil. On the right, good. Left hand, evil. Positive, negative, joy, stress, health, disease. So all the good things that we aspire towards, let's imagine they're on the right hand side. And all the things that we want to avoid, the pain, misery, suffering, on the left hand side. So I am thinking. What am I thinking? So the process of self-realization or self-discovery starts at this point. I am thinking, meaning the soul is associating with information to produce a thought. What kind of information did I just attach myself to produce that thought? Right hand or left hand? Positive or negative? Good or evil? So in that thought, if I can start observing, creating good thoughts, then I'll release good biochemical into my bloodstream that will make me feel better and behave in a more appropriate manner. So I am thinking, right hand or left hand. I am now feeling. How am I feeling? Right hand or left hand? Good or bad? How am I behaving? So if I can check in on myself like that constantly, then I'm taking care of me and how I function and how I behave in this world. So I think, speak, feel, behave. How am I thinking? How am I speaking? How am I feeling? How am I behaving? When I do that for me, I'm taking care of me. And if everyone took care of themselves like that, everybody will be taken care of. So I urge you to understand that the ultimate price, that the ultimate goal of being human is spiritual enlightenment, spirit learning how to use its mind or its brain, its emotion, and its physical body. And I feel that ultimately that's what we're here for. And if we can become enlightened that way, that when this body is no longer able to continue living, that the soul that I am that will expire or exit from this body will be of a frequency that vibrates at the resonance that will go to a realm where I think there'll be beauty and joy rather than what people might call hell and the brimstone and fire. So thank you very much for the opportunity to share this information. I am grateful.
Ramesh, thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you kind of put the connection together between spirituality and the physical being. You know, I personally come from that exact place. I abandoned religion as a child, and in order to get myself back, I really had to get in touch with spirituality, which at that point I completely lost. So I had to get in touch with my spiritual being in order to appreciate and improve the physical being. So thank you very much for your talk today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We have to move on, and our next speaker is a clinical practitioner, and he's going to bring on and quickly discuss with us the shaping of men's attitudes and behavior. So our next speaker is Krish Nath. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, everyone.
Go ahead.
Speaking from damp and cloudy UK. As a senior practicing clinician, my interest in men's problems started in 1997 when I observed a number of my male patients on my caseload who were diagnosed with problems related to anxiety, depression, social adjustment, stroke personality disorder, showed significant similarities in their personal history and development, common environmental stresses, and similar patterns of coping. This observation guided my thoughts of looking further to using a more efficient approach, such as a group therapy approach to treating them. Looking at the research literature at the time, there was very little work done on men's problem, but I was lucky. I persevered and I came across a book by John Rowan, 1997, Steve Biddulph, 1994, David Tacey, 1997, Pollack and Levant, 1998. And those were the materials I had to work with. I ran that group for 10 sessions at the Priory Hospital in London. And the rest is history, really, because the outcome was rather impressive. That the Priory Hospital asked me to make this a feature program on the day therapy schedule. And as far as I'm aware, I've handed over that group many years ago to someone else, and it's still being run at the Priory Hospital. The whole subject of understanding the shaping of men's attitude and behavior is far too big a subject. I can only barely touch on it in the space of 10 minutes. But I would like to read a quote that I found in John Rowan's book on healing the male psyche. Being a man today hurts. The old certainties about who we are and what we are about have shifted radically. We cannot anymore take it for granted that we have a job for life. We cannot take it for granted that we will be husbands and fathers, nor that the environment will remain stable and predictable. It seems that we are expected to carve out a future from uncompromising materials. If we were free and responsible, that would be all right. If we were unfree and irresponsible, that might be acceptable too. If we were free and irresponsible, that might be nice for a while. But what we seem to be is unfree and responsible. And that is a horribly uncomfortable place to be. So the issues here, it is the social pain which comes from being a man in society where strain and distress has become normal. And I believe that this statement from John Rowan encompasses a lot of what men is faced with in the 21st century. We've come from being man the hunter of old, where our roles were very clearly defined. where our expectations in how to behave was well stated. And right across the globe, right across cultures, we can see how the landscape has changed over the time. We live in a world now where, as he stated, strain is normal. But we come from a world where in men's culture, showing signs of emotions such as pain, such as fear, we were told that being emotional interferes with performance. So men were trained, we were actually trained not to be emotional. We were trained to ignore emotions. We were trained to suppress emotions. And we have moved over time to a place where the world has become smaller because of travel. So as one of the previous speakers has said, you know, in Toronto, there's a large Tamil community. It's there because the Tamils needed, I guess, to find jobs and give themselves more security than what they had following the war in Sri Lanka. But we also have Africans, people from the Caribbean and various other places moving to those landscapes where things appear to be brighter, where the need for labor is greater. But that brings its own strain with it. We are going across cultures and we are having to fit into cultures where the language is different, where customs are different, where traditions and practices are different, and we are meant to just settle there and everything will be okay. Well, strain has its own consequences on physical and mental health. And so these are things men have to live with. They cannot, no longer are they allowed to suppress emotional pain or other forms of emotion like anger, like fear. If we do, then the outcome is very simply, it will incapacitate our ability to function in daily living, wherever we happen to be. And we can see these difficulties, as I said, right across cultures. These problems tend to affect men in their relationships with parents, father, mother, relationship with females, relationship with their sons, relationship with their daughters, and sometimes relationship with friends. The landscape has changed. Men being adaptable, well, most of us can adapt to certain degrees. There are also many who find adapting extremely difficult. When that happens, the strain of not adapting tends to trigger our emotional vulnerabilities. Hence, we end up with things like anxiety, depression, problems associated with social adjustments. And if we look at stats today, we know that 1 in 10 adults would have suffered from a severe mental health problem in the course of their life. We know that 1 in 4 are likely to suffer from an issue with an anxiety or depression related problem. We know that the suicide rates are going up. We know that the homicide rates are going up. We know that in this period of COVID pandemic, domestic violence is on the increase. But domestic violence has been on the increase right across the globe, right across cultures for the last 15 to 20 years. I presented my first paper on domestic violence in Guyana and Latin America at a world conference in Peru in 2013, and was not surprised to find that the problem in a small country with a population of 750,000 people such as Guyana was showing true likeness to what was being experienced in the rest of Latin America, Mexico, Paraguay, Argentina, Brazil, Venezuela, etc. So in this week, this is a men's problem, and there is help. In actual fact, in John Rowan's book, there are many others now. We have Steve Biddulph, who is quite a popular family therapist and has done lots of interesting work to address the issue. He's written a wonderful book entitled Manhood, a guidebook for men. And there are a few others. So I hope that in this week of celebrating men's, that men will take a step back and reflect on what they need to do, how they can do it, when they can do it, where they can do it, in order to receive those who need help, to receive the help they need that can help them to adjust socially, that will help them to cope better with problems and functioning of daily living. Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me to present on this platform.
Krish Nash from UK, thank you very much for that. Yeah, you know what? There seems to be a common theme here right now. It really is about the balance of being a person. You know what? It's difficult for men and women to get along or to live life, especially when you put in men's issues. And the fact that we as men have attitudes and behaviors that we put up front beforehand, right? We don't want to accept help. We don't ask. We don't go out and seek betterment or guidance from other people. So I think that's what we're here for this week. Uniting like this, sharing our stories and sharing our message really is to help men find a better way, because it is difficult, but there are people out there and there are ways to receive help out there. So thank you very much. And so we will keep moving right along. We will talk next to, we're going to talk to about, we're going to talk next about discrimination against men. And I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say, because there's a lot of people out there that figure it's a men's world. And do we really experience discrimination as men? So Dr. Carl Augustin from the Global Treaty on Men's Rights, please tell us more.
First of all, you got the wrong Georgia flag there. That's the U.S. state of Georgia. I'm in the country in Eastern Europe. Common joke. I was there. No problem. I was in Savannah 4 years ago with my Georgia nieces. I was speaking Georgian to them, and Checking the hotel, they asked, "What language are you speaking?" I said, "Well, in this state, I think people should know Georgian."
Very
By the
good.
way, I get a little bit of my background. I was born in the U.S., Swedish father, U.S. mother, and I married a woman from the Republic of Georgia. I live here in Tbilisi, the capital, where I teach at 2 universities. So I have citizenship in all 3 countries. So at any rate, growing up, I noticed as a kid in the I'm 40 years old, born in 1977. As a kid in the 80s, I started to notice things that were not fair to men. One of the biggest ones I noticed was I told you I was a Swedish citizen. At the time, nearly every European country had a military service requirement for men. None had one for women. And my father, he happily served in the army, but I thought that was unfair. And I started noticing things like the teachers in school were clearly favoring the girls over the boys, and I thought that was unfair. And finally, in the 6th grade, in 1989, I took legal action against my school for discrimination against boys and caused a federal investigation of my school single-handedly a month before I turned 12, early start in the men's rights movement. And for the record, the investigation proved that I was right. So in time, I was kind of mentally making a list of all the things in the world that are unfair to men. And as a teenager, I worked on a PhD later on for political science. So I've studied political science a lot. I became aware of CEDAW, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. And I read through this treaty. It was passed back in the 70s. And I thought to myself, this really is a great treaty. And again, this is not a service. I mean it. A lot of things that are unfair to women are listed. And country around the world said, let's do something about it. That's great. But what about the other half of the equation? And so that's why nearly 10 years ago, and I've written to every country, I've gotten very few responses, but I'm keeping this ball rolling. I came up with the idea of a CEDAW, a Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Men, that I hope someday will actually be a global treaty that the world's countries will ratify. So I could easily give an hour presentation to this, so I'll try to be very brief. What I have done is the list I made at the time had about 28 items, although I've since added a few more to the list. And I've put them into 5 parts. And I'll briefly go over them. The first is the most important, life and death issues. Now, the very first thing I mentioned is not really life and death, but it calls for International Men's Day. And that's to complement the 8th of March, International Women's Day, which we all know is 19th of November is Men's Day. And I want to make it clear that many places here in Eastern Europe had a Veterans Day, like Russia, I think, still does, and that's seen as the equivalent of a Men's Day, and it's not. It's fine and dandy to have a Veterans Day, but do not tell me that's the same thing as a Men's Day, because it's not. At any rate, the rest of Part 1 discusses sexist military service requirements. It mentions the fact that in dangerous situations like sinking ships, men's lives are seen as being less valuable as women and children. It mentions issues of men's health. Men's health receives far less funding and attention than women's health, even if you exclude all pregnancy-related issues. And many of the speakers before me have mentioned men's mental health has not gotten enough attention. Also, I mentioned the issue of the blood feuds of northern Albania. I don't want to digress too much into what that is. That is officially legal in Albania, but still happens. And last thing I mentioned is genital integrity. Male genital mutilation is just as wrong as female genital mutilation. Nobody's genitals, male or female, should ever be cut. Next one I mentioned, Part 2, is legal issues. I mentioned taxation. And by the way, I want to mention that I did not come up with any hypotheticals on this list. Everything I mentioned here has at least been suggested by somebody, if not actual law somewhere. I remember seeing somewhere once, it was, I think, a Pacific Island country that had a higher rate of taxation for men. And feminists in both Sweden and Spain have actually suggested that men should be forced to pay higher taxes than women. Never mind that men already pay a higher tax burden as it is. Next, I mentioned retirement ages. Many countries, and those in Canada can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Canada at one point had a higher retirement age for men. I know Britain is now evening that out. Here in the Republic of Georgia, it's 65 for men and 60 for women, in spite of the fact that men have a shorter life expectancy. 3 years ago, I was invited to this speech by someone I worked with at my university discussing women's issues. At the end, I went up to the woman who I think was the ombudsman for equality, but can't be sure. And I said, "Hi, I'm with the National Coalition for Men." And she was very snarky to me and said, "We don't have any legislative discrimination against men here." And I asked, "What's the retirement age?" "Well, it's a matter of opinion whether that's discrimination." But okay, but what is it? Just say it. She wouldn't even say it. So, I mean, no, that is not a matter of opinion. Men die 8 years younger here in Georgia. Do not tell me a 5-year higher retirement age here is not a matter of discrimination. It's blatant discrimination. Also with ages, in some places, there's a minimum age for men that's higher than women. Some U.S. states, for example, may say 18 for men, 16 for women. Some countries have that. Also, I mentioned visas and immigration. For example, it's much easier for a woman to bring her children to a country than for a man, or to get citizenship for her children than for a man to get for his children if they're from different countries. Again, this depends on the country. And at one point after September 11th, the United States created an extra visa form for younger men to fill out that was just all kinds of nonsense, just to say they did something after the September 11th attacks. Part 3 is about crime and safety. I discussed false accusations, male victims of domestic violence, harsher sentences for men, and extra prison privileges for women. Also the fact that many people seem to treat all men as potential rapists and pedophiles. I mentioned the airline seating policy. Some of you are probably aware of that. I also mentioned some of these sex offender registries where it takes hardly anything to get onto them and your life is just ruined once you are. And part 4 is about dating, sexuality, marriage, and fatherhood. Again, I get into things like dating expectations. Men are expected to make all the first moves when it comes to dating, yet sexual harassment has long become a minefield where the mines could retroactively explode like 30 years later at this point. I also get into the issue of like legal prostitution, pornography, strip clubs. I know some feminists are pushing for the model where it's illegal to buy sex but not sell it, even though they're both consenting adults. Also discuss the importance of marriage, the importance of fatherhood, the rights of divorced men and non-custodial fathers, and things like child support payments, alimony. In some cases, for example, if a couple is unmarried and teenagers, for the teenage boy to have any custody, he has to take parenting classes, but the teenage girl doesn't have to. And part 5, I mentioned education, employment, and business establishments. Boys have fallen behind academically at alarming rates. I mentioned ending sexist affirmative action policies that hurt males, supporting men in non-traditional jobs such as nursing and secretary work, supporting men as stay-at-home fathers and house husbands. I also mentioned things like ending women's-only establishments, like women's-only gyms. A lot of places have women's-only train cars, for example, I know in India. And also separate prices, ladies' nights, discounts, et cetera, et cetera. One thing that I did not have a chance to mention here, one feminist in Australia was seriously proposing a curfew for men. I don't know if that's ever existed in history, but of course that will be blatantly sexist. So basically, I'm calling on the world's governments to adopt this international treaty to complement and not replace Saddam. So thank you.
So, Dr. Carl Augustin, thank you for that. I ask you, you know what, please continue your work with International Men's Day. There is lots of instances where men are looked on differently just because they are men. And you certainly pointed out, and I hope we could take a more in-depth look at that list you provided, because a lot of them can be resolved. Yes, we may have to go bureaucratically and judicially and seek that avenue, but I'm sure there's plenty of people in this community who would be able to help take those causes up with you. So I hope we can take a more deeper look at that list and certainly work to get some of that resolved.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time today. So we are going to try and get back to our first speaker who had issues with connectivity. So we're going to try and get back on with the General Secretary and his talk about the protection for men. Madhu, are you there with us?
No, he's not there because he has a power cut at his place. So we have some technical issues. So
that is our discussions for today, it looks like.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us today. We had a lot of powerful talks on today, really in the area of men's health, healthy minds, the imbalance that we experience in men, and the injustice that we do experience in men. And that's really what we're looking for and fighting for in acknowledging International Men's Day, is to change the balance in the rules and the expectations that are placed on us as men. So we are Voice of Men 360, and we are representing International Men's Day for the rest of this week. We'll be here till Thursday, which is November 19th, International Men's Day. We're going to be here from 10 till 12 on that day. And we're going to host a panel forum type deal. So you'll get to hear from plenty of speakers at the same time. So please join us all the rest of the week, 10 a.m. In the Voice of Men 360 Facebook group. And then now we'll talk more about, our art contest. Please don't forget about that. Again, we want you to tell your story about International Men's Day and men's issues through your art, whether it be drawings, paintings, physical art beings, something in the area of performance, whether it be a music or song, a film, animation, a theater stage production, something like that, or you're writing articles, poems, short stories. Please keep your work short, under 5 minutes for physical or for performance products, and then under 2,500 words for articles and writing. Our deadline for that is December 20th, 2021. So please visit our website, voiceofmen360.org, for that. And we thank our sponsors, Right Choice Professionals, Wood Gold LLP, Macamet and Agostino Mortgage, and DF Credit Solutions for making this happen. We do have terms and conditions. Any work must have English subtitles. So if it's performed in some other language, please make sure there's English subtitles. Again, we ask that you keep them short, under 5 minutes or under 2,500 words. There is no age or gender limit. You can be any age, any gender, any race to participate. We ask that you provide your name, phone number, email address, and your picture along with your submission. And by entering, you agree that your picture and your creation will be shared on social media. Please visit us at www.voiceofmen360.org. You can email us at info@voiceofmen360.org. Our phone number is 647-424-2251, 2251. And please visit our Facebook group, again, for more videos and broadcasts to come. We do daily broadcasts, and this is an ongoing show where you can find our videos on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. But if you want to get involved with Voices of Men, we are always accepting new interviews. We'd love to share your stories and your experience with our audience, so please reach out to us for that. And again, please find more of our videos, our YouTubes, and these broadcasts at our YouTube channel, and like and subscribe there. Thank you for joining us today, and please join us for the rest of the week as we at Voice of Men 360 represent International Men's Day on November 18th. That's our show for today. Have a great day, folks.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thank you, guys. Take care. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.